From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a quick spoiler-free film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie My Stepmother is an Alien, released in 1988, starring Dan Aykroyd, Kim Basinger, and Jon Lovitz, directed by Richard Benjamin. The synopsis is: Stephen Mills is a scientist who sends a signal to a planet 92 light years away in the clouds of Magellan and endangers their world. The aliens send their best operative, Celeste, to find out how to set things right. Originally, the story idea was created by someone by the name of Jericho, which was a tale about child abuse and alien abduction based on so-called actual events. It sounds pretty dark and completely weird. So what happened? Why is this a comedy? Paramount bought the rights to the story, and with the help of about 9 other writers, came up with what we see today. Now, this is a warning to you. The story is completely fantasy-based and full of make-believe science and situations. So if you really need things to make sense in a movie, and I feel so weird about saying if you need your science to make sense, this was something you should really skip. However, going forward, it is what I would call a kind of a wacky, fun movie. It's definitely not one that you'll say is a movie that you would say is a good movie, but it is definitely a lot of fun. And that's, I believe that's exactly what they were intending to do with this film. They weren't going out for a very intellectual and smart movie. It was basically cheap, cheesy fun. Celeste is the chief intergalactic probist sent to extract the composition of Steve's radar beam. Steve doesn't know how the beam even reached their planet. I mean, it kind of happened as an accident. So Celeste really thinks that he's lying this pretty much throughout the entire film, and is pretty much to do whatever it takes to get the information that she needs from him. I mean, her motivation is quite good. I mean, she's trying to save her planet from destruction. So it's a classic fish out of water story, setting her up for awkward moments comedically as she's trying to figure out the way things work on planet Earth. Most of the jokes that happen work, and then there are a few of them that are borderline creepy. They're just straight up creepy and weird. And what makes things really creepy is that the film makes such a big deal about the sexual relationship between Celeste and Steve. It's really overdone, and it feels like a male fantasy instead of an actual story with reasonable events happening. Celeste is completely objectified, and it really takes over the story when we should really be more focused on her being an alien and learning about humanity while trying to gain Steve and his daughter's trust. It's quite a mature subject matter that flies under the radar of that PG-13 rating. I mean, they get married within a day, so we can have the title make sense in the film. But we only get a very small portion of the movie from the stepdaughter's point of view. But to be completely honest, when we do get to that part of the film, it really follows a more predictable storyline, very tropey, and it's where it kind of loses its surprise and becomes more boring. Now, I felt that it could have served the story better if Celeste had been upfront about being an alien, and maybe the human characters not believe her until they actually see her do something truly quote unquote out of this world. Instead, they did that thing that most of us hate when our protagonist hides the truth from the people that they're getting close to, and at some point toward the end, that when they're discovered, everybody hates them. It's really one of those tropes I hope I never see again in any film. It's really truly eye-rolling, to be honest. The film doesn't stay on that for too long. It brings the wacky and weird on again. It really is kind of a non-stop wacky train of events that happens in this movie. And I really love all that. I mean, one of the most fun aspects of the film is Celeste's liaison, posing as a one-eyed worm in her purse. She doesn't really have a name. I mean, they call her Purse every once in a while, but she doesn't really have an actual name. But I thought that character was so delightful and quite entertaining. And it makes quite an interesting villain. What was lacking there was an actual motivation. There wasn't a lot of motivation for her character to be an evil person. We just didn't get that depth, and or just felt like, oh, that's juicy. I didn't feel that. But as far as her being a generic villain, the Purse really did such a great job at doing that. Now, the performances were pretty good. I thought that Kim Basinger was really bubbly and adorable in this role. Any issues that I had with what she does with her character really boils down to the written dialogue. I thought she certainly proved that she could have fun with the role, and you see how much gusto she's putting into her work. And besides that, no one will ever forget her Pump Up the Volume striptease. Wow, I mean, that is iconically incredible. She's goes down in history for putting together such an incredible performance in that particular scene. For some reason, I always seem to enjoy Dan Aykroyd as an actor, and perhaps it's because I grew up watching him on Saturday Night Live in the 1970s, and nostalgia has a big part to play in it personally, so I'm not afraid to admit that. I just seem to like him, and I do like his portrayal of this average but goofy Joe nerd kind of character. And you know, one of the strangest features of the film is the introduction of the comedic performer Jimmy Durante from the 1920s, and who had a career all the way up until the 1970s. However, this addition was completely lost to most audience members. Even myself, knowing who he was, I didn't really find it interesting or fascinating or fun, and it really derailed the movie. And not only that, the film kind of doubled down on it, even inserted a kind of tribute song and dance number in the film for Steve and Celeste to perform together. I mean, talk about really awkward. But thankfully, they don't stay on it forever, and so there are many great gags in the film, like Celeste making an entire restaurant menu for breakfast, and drinking batteries for energy, and scenes where the bag is visually explaining what different things mean on planet Earth. I thought all those scenes were quite funny. It got some really genuine chuckles out of me. Now, I know that the film has been ragged and ridiculed by quite a few reviewers because it really makes no sense as a story plot or anything. It's just kind of like string together all these ideas and kind of put them together, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and for that I agree. But I also do think it's a really fun movie with tons of wacky delights. My rating is a 7.3. Well, that sums up my quick spoiler-free review. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.